Okay. Hi everyone, this is SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com, and I'm finally back with another video analysis. I know it's been a long time, for the last, seems like forever, but I guess it's since August. I've been studying for the LSAT, and I finally wrote that yesterday, and I either did very, very well or very, very poorly. I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks when I get the score. I felt confident through the entire thing, so we'll find out if that's true confidence or if I was simply deluding myself. I finished every section, not just in time, but before the 5-minute warning, which is something I hadn't even done during my practice tests. So, again, I either crushed the exam or I was so nervous I sped through, and we'll find out. I'll let you guys know. Anyway, let's get back to chess. I just played this game, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts on this, on my main takeaways from a pretty, I don't know if it was an interesting game. It was a tough game, despite the fact that maybe it shouldn't have been so tough. That's usually how it is. So we're going to take a look at this just relatively briefly. I was black. This was a 15-minute game, and this is the first day I've been playing chess again since the test, right? So I'm still rusty. There's no denying about that. You can see my opponent was 16, almost 1700. My provisional rating is in the 1800s. Anyway, so let's take a look. He played e4, c5, and then he plays this funny move, a3. And I thought, I don't know, is he going to play the wing gambit delayed, something like this? This is what some people do. I played knight c6, and then he played bishop c4. And then, it's funny, I actually predicted exactly what was going to happen. Don't ask me how. I figured it's going to be very similar to the London system, where white will often play h3, so he can bring the bishop to f4 and then bring it back to h2. And I thought, this is what my opponent's thinking, is I'm going to play e6, d5, and he wants to put his bishop back here on a2. And that's actually exactly what happened. So, I guess, I don't know, I'm psychic? And clearly black is absolutely fine here. White has spent, what? 1, 2, 3 tempi to put this bishop here on e2. Is that even good? And so clearly black is fine. I develop. He plays h3, another random move. Okay, bishop e7. He develops his knight. Here, that move really surprised me. The queenside knight. Like, shouldn't he play knight f3 and castle? Surely. And then when he played bishop f4, I was just simply confused. And my opponent, clearly doesn't seem to worry about his king. I played rook e8, queen d2, allowing me to have a discovered, my discovered check, right? The king, the rook, everything's on the open file. It's not the best discovered check in the world. I only have, 2 possible squares. Neither of them seem to do too much. But the initiative, what's important, and the most important thing in this position right now is clearly his king. If he can get castled, maybe he can play, g4, h4, maybe he's got an attack there. That's clearly what he's thinking. Queen d2 so we can castle queenside. And so let's not let him do that. I check. He has to block. Take, and then knight d4. And so putting pressure on my opponent. And now I just want to say here is kind of the nature of the mistake that I was under. Is right now I'm thinking I'm better. I am better. Black is doing very well. He's got the best piece on the board is the knight. I've got control of the open file. He isn't castled. His king is very weak. My knight is pressuring here. My knight is also pressuring here. There's lots of threats. Possibly we could do take, and his king stuck in the center. That's maybe it's not a threat, but it's a possibility. Of course, taking on c2 is great. Even something like queen, excuse me. Sorry about that. Queen a5, pinning the knight, and then this knight is essentially undefended. We can take it like that. White's under pressure. At the same time, there's nothing organically wrong with his position. He has no real, weaknesses. He doesn't have a bad piece. Right, it's not like he has a bishop completely entombed. I mean, this bishop isn't great, but it's at least pressuring this pawn, and this pawn is not the strongest pawn in the world. And if white were to trade all the pieces here, he's doing fine. And so what I'm trying to say is the nature of my advantage is temporary. I've got my pieces are a bit more active, and my king is safer, his king is weak. And so I have to take advantage of this quickly, right? If I lollygag about, that's going to give white time to consolidate, and then he'll be fine. And then we're going to be equal again. And so let's take a look what happens. In the game, he played a funny move. He played king d2. My queen d2 is clearly the obvious move, but moving the queen back again, I can see why he didn't want to do that, but I don't know why you want to move the king to d2. And here's where I had a pretty long think. Like, what do I do? And I found, what, 3 moves? No, I found 2 moves that were very good, and then I messed up on the 3rd move, which is frustrating, right? So the first thing I noticed is that his, besides his king is on d2, and that's absolutely scary, is that, for him, is that his queen has no good squares right now. His queen is nearly trapped. And after knight h5, the queen is forced all the way back to h2, which is a terrible square for the queen. Black's advantage grows, right? Now his queen's out of play, his king's in the center, I've got pretty good pieces. Things are great. And it's here where I kind of lost the thread a little bit. I was focusing, okay, so my next move is fine, I take with the knight. And then he's forced to, of course, take back. The idea of this is that simply that I don't want my pawns to be doubled, because it'd be very hard to open the position. Yeah, the open c file is nice, but his king's on the d file. If I can't open the d file, I can't really get his king. You know, he can plap his bishop here or his rook here. There's nothing going on in the c file. And also, this pawn is technically hanging. It's being attacked twice. And so I have to do something about that. And so taking is fine. It's great. And then here's where I couldn't do it. I couldn't find the best way forward. In the game, I ended up playing b6 because I didn't know what else to do, and I figured, okay, I'll just finish development. I'll put my bishop on b7. You know, do something like queen e7 or bring the rooks over, and then figure out what to do after that. Might as well, right? b7 seemed a little bit better than e6. Though it costs 2 tempi. And honestly, again, this is simply a point where my killer instinct wasn't there. I needed to look deeper. At the same time, I spent 3 minutes. I only had a couple of minutes, 5 minutes? I guess. Okay, I still have lots of time, actually. Maybe I'm just trying to justify it for myself. So, b6 doesn't work. What else is possible? The main thing I was trying to get work was this line with queen g5. So that way, for instance, it's check, and if you were to block with this, I bring the queen back and I try and invade here. Or, win the knight, something like that. But it doesn't, it's not really enough, right? Or maybe it is. What's the computer say? Really? Something like this doesn't work? Well, then my queen's trapped. Frig. Yeah, so I'm rusty. Oh, frig. So trying to get this, this line, I wasn't able to do it. And it's a good thing because it doesn't work. There's a better move, the best move, and it's kind of obvious to me now, is queen a5 with check. Because now his king is either going to be stuck back on the back rank, and now his rooks aren't connected. His king is still open. I can now perhaps develop leisurely, move the bishop somewhere, even this, rooks over, try and push the pawns, and he can never trade both rooks. Like he can bring one rook to the e file and trade it, but he can't bring the other one. And so I'll be playing up a rook. That's great. Right? You can't block with the knight because that loses. And playing whoops, I'm really bad at this. And playing c3 is very, very weakening. In fact, something like queen b6, attacking the pawn, which would then fork a whole bunch of things. You can't defend with the king because he loses the knight, so that's not very good. Trying to defend with the rook, it's very, very passive. And then perhaps something like this is coming on. The computer suggests that bishop f4 and then an eventual sacrifice right here is absolutely deadly. I don't know if I would have saw that, but there you go. Now, what's interesting is that when I played b6, and then, okay, he brings his rook over, I bring my rook here, right? The position is now equal. So, what do we mean by that? It means black's advantage isn't there anymore. That temporary advantage I talked about is completely gone. Black is fine. There's no, white is fine. Black has no way of pushing through. No way to take advantage. Yeah, okay, the queen's not very well placed here. But it's not going to be permanent. And we can even imagine something like g4, h4, h5, g5, something like that. And maybe the queen is really useful in the h-file. Maybe. Is my knight any better than that queen right now? If my knight moves back, his queen can move out. So the position is equal. But I didn't think it was equal. I still thought I was doing better, and so I pushed really friggin' hard trying to win. And it doesn't work. We'll just look at this quickly. Okay, he attacks my knight. I move back. He plays this. Again, I move my queen up. Apparently b5 was better. Okay, why not? He attacks, coming in. And I'm thinking I'm doing great. I'm going to come in. And I'm pressing so hard. I'm thinking so much, and it's not working. Because there is nothing here. And because I pressed so hard, I actually end up getting into a worse position, which is actually kind of amazing when you look at this position right here. Okay, he moves his king back, which isn't the best move, but fine. I line my rook up, which also apparently isn't the best move, but whatever. Knight in. I check it. I pin it. I think I'm doing great. Like, look at this. He's checked. Okay, he moves his king. So the knight can't move, or the queen's going to fall. It's being attacked twice. There's this pressure on the e-file, and things are great. But my bishop isn't in the game. And I want to get this bishop, because I just think, if I can play something like this, and then ignore that one. So I can do this, and then I get the bishop into f3 maybe. Possibly trade. And what does white do? He's got so few moves. And I was trying to imagine almost a zugzwang type of position. And this is completely overconfident. It doesn't even make sense now that I'm looking at it afterwards. But because I was pushing so hard, this was the nature of my mistake. Is I tried to grab too much. I didn't evaluate the position correctly. Part of that is, I guess I can make the excuse, I haven't played in a while, but that's what happened. And we can see, actually, is after I played d4, which sure, it gets my bishop into the game, but it brings his bishop into the game just as much. And is that better or worse? If anything, it's better for him, because his bishop's pointing at my king, and all of his pieces are on the king side. And then after he played this, is that I played I thought was a really funny combo. He takes, I then take on f2. And I'm attacking the rook, I'm attacking the knight, I'm threatening mate, everything is great. It turns out this actually loses to mate in 2. Whoops. And we can see my overconfidence just completely destroyed my position. Maybe it's not even overconfidence. It's a complete misevaluation which forced me to keep looking, to go forward, trying to find tactics where there weren't tactics, and that's why I lost. Well, sorry, that's why I should have lost. I didn't actually lose this game. My opponent didn't play that. He played something else, though, which is almost just as good. Take. So here I'm up a piece, and I thought things are great. But then he has rook takes f7. And this completely turns the game around. And so I'm tempering up a piece, but he's got that nasty discover it. And this is a really nice tactic, actually, right? And so if I were to move my bishop somewhere, right to here, well then he can go here, discover check. I move the king somewhere, and then he takes my rook. Okay, so you can't do that. So my bishop has to keep defending my rook. Same thing if the bishop moves somewhere else. My bishop moves, here or something, right? You can always get that discover attack. If I try and keep the bishop here, well, he can just take the pawn with check. King moves, wins the bishop. And what, he's up a pawn at this point? Yeah, he's up a pawn. So there's nothing. I'm simply stuck in a worse endgame. Probably a losing endgame. And I was fortunate that my opponent did not play the resulting endgame very well. As you can see, he wins all the queenside pawns, but I've got a very fast g-pawn, and in 2 moves, he's suddenly losing. And so this is kind of the exact same thing, but perhaps in reverse. Is that here, white is winning. Computer says, right? It's +2, absolutely dominant. It's bishop versus knight in an endgame. We got rooks. He's got 2 connected pass pawns. If he can win this pawn, he's got 4 connected pass pawns, right? Things are great. Best move here. Again, he played king a2, getting his king away from a check, I guess. I don't know. And then after g4, rook h5, there's actually no way to stop the pawn anymore, because the knight is perfectly in a way for the bishop, right? The bishop can't get over here because of the pawn. His rook actually can't stop the pawn in any way, and my knight controls the queening square. So I just push my pawn, he attacks my knight, he takes my knight, but I don't need to take back. And then 30-odd moves, I was able to actually win the endgame. So kind of a bittersweet game. I mean, it's always nice winning, but it's better not to have to swindle, I guess. It's better to win by playing good moves rather than bad moves. It's the same thing. So what I was trying to say, sorry, is that my opponent misevaluated this position. Is that he needed to realize that the most important thing is stopping my pawns, right? Be very, very swift, because my pawn's very fast. And so the best move that could, we got some bishop e6. Again, we're immediately stopping the pawn, right? And then we can just imagine if I try to keep pushing the pawn here, then white can push his pawn. Now we got, after this here, right? You can take the pawn, and it's check. That's a crucial difference. My king moves somewhere, and I can just resign at this point. If I don't push that pawn, I push this pawn, well, now he's got that light square blockade, and I'm not going anywhere fast. His pawns are very, very quick. So that's it. So I'm not going to belabor this too much. I mean, it was a game. It was an interesting game. It was an intense game. But of course, it's the takeaways that you want to get. And the takeaway, again, isn't so much the... I guess some of it is the chess and the calculation and knowing what to do. But really, it was a psychological mistake. Is where I thought I was better, and I was better, but I missed my chance. But then I kept thinking I was better. I pushed, and I pushed, and it actually led me to a worse position. And this happens so often. Usually I'm the one on the other end, is my opponent thinks they're better, and then I kind of goad them on, and then I'm able to turn the tables later. I've done that, I like doing that. But that didn't happen here. And I guess some of that's the lack of practice, some of that is just lack of good moves. Anyway, that's enough for now. Thanks for watching. I'll have a better video, so to speak, but next week I'm actually going to plan on it. This is just kind of me talking off the top of my head. But we'll have videos soon. We'll have blog posts, so check that out, SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.